Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy VersaTyler. And what I wanted to do today is kind of go over all the settings that I use for Call of Duty Warzone, as well as a loadout that I've been using recently that's really helped me improve my overall accuracy and gameplay and just be able to hit more of my shots. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that I wanted to go over is on your controller. I highly recommend using the bumper jumper tactical, and the reason for this is it allows you to jump with L1 as well as still be able to keep both fingers onto your joysticks, which is the most important thing while getting into firefights. So imagine that as you're jumping around a corner, the normal button to use is X. You have to actually remove your finger from the right analog stick to do that. So therefore you can no longer aim. By moving it to L1, that allows you to quickly jump with L1 around corners, as well as still be able to keep your left stick on the movement and the right stick on the aiming. So that's a personal preference for me with tactical as well, because then that gives the ability to crouch and prone with R3, so you can hit some of those drop shots in the different situations. If you're not comfortable with doing that, you can always keep it as the bumper jumper normal, or if you have a scuff controller, that doesn't really apply to you. Moving on, the next setting is the horizontal and stick sensitivity. I play at a much higher rate than probably most players. 11 is what I use on both the horizontal and vertical. I was using a multiplier for the low and high zooms, but I decided to take those off, and I feel like I've been a little bit more accurate. As well as you'll see once I pull up the loadout that I'm gonna go over, I'm not using a gun that requires a scope on it, so that's not really affecting me anymore. The next one I want to go over is the aim response curve type. So I've kind of played around the standard, linear, and dynamic. Honestly, there's not a big difference from them, so if you don't feel comfortable changing that and practicing it around with a little bit, don't worry about it too much. But if you are willing to give it a chance, I would say use dynamic. Since moving it to dynamic from linear, I feel like it's been a little bit more what I expect when using the aim assist. It's a little bit more with the dead zone rather than just a straight to my aim rate. So that's been a little bit easier for me to go through the controls. The next one that we want to go over is controller vibration. You always want to keep this disabled. Anytime a vibration happens, it can kind of manipulate the movements that you're using on the control. So anything that we can do to limit that will help us as we're going through the different movements. Aim assist, keep that on standard. I played around with precision and focusing. I didn't see that it had any kind of improvement. And some of the strong aim down that it did with precision, for example, it kind of affected my aim in a negative way where it was doing too much of the aim assist. So keeping it on standard is where I would recommend. Weapon mounting, that's really just up to you. The next setting that we want to go over is the aim down sight behavior. I believe it defaults as a toggle, but make sure you switch this to hold, and that's the same thing for the equipment as well. You don't want to be just tapping something randomly and then all of a sudden you're stuck to something. So just keep that in mind while you're playing. The very next one that we want to go over is probably the most important one, and that's contextual tap. So what this does is, as you're looting around, you have to hold square over all the weapons, all the ammo, etc. to be able to pick it up. Contextual tap allows you to tap to reload or to use. So that means one tap to both reload as well as pick up something off the ground or interact with the environment. One thing to keep in mind is you want to practice around this for a little bit, probably in Plunder, just because once you're getting in like the vehicles, one thing that was happening to me was I was accidentally leaving the vehicle when I was trying to reload. So just keep that in mind. One thing to kind of help avoid that is holding the button always reloads. So anytime you're in a vehicle, just always just hold the reload button, and then you can easily get through it. The next one we want to go over is slide behavior and tap, and that's because when you're running and you're trying to get away from a sniper, although you don't want to slide as much as jumping or just zigzagging in general, doing the slide every once in a while will get an inexperienced sniper off his game, and sometimes it will allow you to slide underneath those shots that they're trying to aim for. Keep the auto movement forward disabled, but enable automatic tactical sprint. This allows you to quickly get into that automatic sprint and get out of sticky situations or get to your teammates a little quicker than what the default is. The next tip that we want to go over is your film grain. Keep this to 0. This allows it to not be as choppy, and it'll just make the game look a little bit clearer. Keep the tooltips enabled if you wish. It allows you just to kind of see the different things throughout the map. I personally disable the subtitles. I know a lot of people, they like to turn the subtitles on because sometimes you can hear the enemies around the corners saying something to their team. So if you do choose to leave that on, that's not a problem. Really important thing to keep in mind is to keep the world motion blur and the weapon motion blur both disabled. There's a lot of videos out there that are going to kind of go over the benefits of that, but the pictures do a pretty good adaptation of that. So what the world motion blur is, as you're kind of turning your aim across the land, you'll notice a lot of the visuals start to blur. And you can miss people hiding in the windows. So one way to avoid that is to actually disable that, and that way you can easily pop out different people in the windows or from far away. Another really important thing is to make your HUD minimap shaped square. This will give you about 25% more surface area to be able to see around. You can see in this picture, you basically get all the corners again. So you can see you get that full right side building, and you're able to see more of the map and be able to actually visualize the enemies around you. And always keep the minimap rotation on so that it will follow you around. For all you headset users, this is kind of what I've gone with. I use boost low. I feel like it helps me hear the footsteps a little bit better. I keep the master volume at 65. I do not like music in games, so I always turn that to 0. And I leave the dialogue and effects volumes down to 30. The master volume kind of overrides some of that as well, so it doesn't have to worry about it too much. But the boost low is definitely a benefit if you want to be able to hear some of those footsteps. Okay, so getting into the class itself, looking at the weapon of the Growl, we have the monolithic suppressor on there. This allows us to have a larger range as well as a sound suppression on there as well, and it doesn't limit the other factors of the gun. Moving on to the barrel, we put the Nexus on there. This increases the damage range, the bullet velocity, the recoil control, and it doesn't decrease all the other stats too much to where it makes the gun unusable. Moving to the underbarrel, we have the Commando foregrip. I felt like this offered the best accuracy and range without impacting the mobility or the aim down speed, which is what we're really trying to avoid. Is we don't want to have anything cluttering our aim down speed, because we want to be able to treat this as both a medium range assault rifle as well as for the close range attachments to be able to quickly snap up and get your enemy. The ammunition, I left it at 50 rather than the 60, because the 60 I felt like dropped things way too much on the mobility that I didn't want to be impacted that much. And then the rear grip, I kept the XRK Void on there because that increases our aim down speed and our sprint to fire speed. So going back to one of those previous settings where we were actually removing some of that aim down sight speed settings from some of the other attachments, this allows us to kind of look at that from a different aspect and increase that. So it kind of evens it out through the whole class. RPG, personally, until they nerf cars, I'm going to be using an RPG exclusively. Just because the cars are very easily be killed by, and if you don't have an RPG or C4, it makes it very hard, as well as with the close encounters with the different buildings and people camping, having the RPG to be able to shoot into buildings has really been beneficial to me. Because of all the thermals, I strictly will use cold-blooded, Ghost for all the UAVs, heartbeat sensors, etc. And then for the perk 3, I keep amped on because this allows for a faster weapon swap and rocket reload speed. So you can carry a max of 7 rockets, and having amped really helps control being able to get through them quickly if you're in a bad situation. Moving on to lethal, I personally like C4. This allows you to throw it quickly at trucks or cars or people in general, and be able to quickly double tap it, kind of like a grenade, but with a bigger explosion radius. And then tactical, I was using the heartbeat sensor for a very long time, but with more people using cold-blooded and Ghost, I decided to use Flash instead, because I feel like Flash is always a little bit more damaging rather than stun, where that just makes you move slower, but you can still kind of see. But Flash, it really can confuse an enemy, because they're still running at full speed, but they can't see anything around them. So that's kind of like the class that I like to use right now. Like I said, in the last couple weeks that I've been using it, I have about a 2.0 KD with it, a couple wins, so it's really been beneficial for me. While the words are really good, I want to show you a couple clips of me using it in some of these previous games, just to kind of showcase the different strengths of the gun. If you guys enjoyed the video and it helped you at all in any of the settings, make sure you leave a like, comment, and share in the video. We're trying to continue to grow the channel. I appreciate, guys, all of your support, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Thank you.
My guy up real quick. Hey, big man. Is it cool if I stop by real quick? Alright. Be there in about 10 minutes. Hey, babe. Yo, good to go.
I be looking for a plug for a quarter, a dagger premium. I'm smelling like a farm in whatever car that you see me in. Feeling like a star, shorty driving with my new CD. Yeah, she looking to fly high and I'm looking to be her genie. Then we pass the Dutch, leaf burning the grandma master kush. Ain't no such thing that Martel's had enough. We getting high on this, right, girl? You better fasten up, cause I'm trying to blow through an ounce, but only smoke at the house because I just wanna sit back and get blowed. When my music turned up till it overloads. My nigga, I ain't tryna see the road. I'm facing these blunts until I overdose. Yo, I just wanna sit back and get blowed. When my music turned up till it overloads. My nigga, I ain't tryna see the road. Yo, I'm facing these blunts until I overdose. I'm tryna make my eyes lower than Trump's approval rating, where the only thing on my mind is damn what food I'm making. I wanna get back to the crib and lay down while I'm baking, and hope I don't sleep like Ivory, leave my house ablazing. Walk around the city, blunt faced and feeling so amazing. Ain't no pussy in my lungs, baby, I stay blowing crazy. Take the Uber back to the crib cause I feel kinda lazy. I ain't coming back out again, don't even try to page me. I'm saying I just wanna sit back and get blowed. When my music turned up till it overloads. My nigga, I ain't tryna see the road. I'm facing these blunts until I overdose. Yo, I just wanna sit back and get blowed. When my music turned up till it overloads. My nigga, I ain't tryna see the road. I'm facing these blunts until I overdose. Movie on in my zone, I don't wanna host any visits. Just wanna blow on this strobe and lay in the clouds and get lifted. I'm high. I'll be sitting here for a minute and throw a Dutch in the air for my niggas torn by the system. Spark a Vic in the stew, feeling every beat that I listen to. Listen, dude, my munchies be banging, I can kill addition to.